Good morning, and on behalf of our weather team, I would like to wish each and every one of you a very happy Thanksgiving. I truly hope you all have a wonderful day. We are going to discuss the weather outlook for today, as well as the significant patterns that are developing. We will be covering a major winter storm that is currently impacting the Great Lakes and the Northeast, and a large portion of the Mid-Atlantic is experiencing significant lake effect snowfall as the low pressure system has moved northward. We will talk about all of that. There is also another weather system moving into the upper Midwest and Great Lakes region that is expected to bring substantial snowfall totals. Following that, we are closely tracking a potential snowstorm for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, which looks to arrive around the 2nd or 3rd of December. We will also discuss everything that follows, which includes a great deal of cold air and more opportunities for snowfall. We have a lot to cover, so it will be a very busy forecast. As you can tell, my voice is sounding a bit stronger today. We are getting very close to bringing back our regular video format, and we plan to return to our normal operations as I continue to recover from a rather unpleasant illness. Now, looking at the weather map, we have a few areas of interest to discuss. There is some storminess located over the northwest, bringing snowfall to the higher elevations and rainfall to the lower elevations, which is quite typical for that region. In fact, for this time of year, it is a relatively quiet day for our friends in the Northwest. We do, however, see a great deal of snow activity happening around the Great Lakes. Very heavy lake effect snowfall is currently underway in that region. There are also a few passing snow showers across the plains and even along the lower Appalachian mountain range as well. I am noticing some activity there. However, apart from that significant lake effect snowfall, it is shaping up to be a fairly pleasant Thanksgiving day. It is certainly very, very cold outside, of course, but that lake effect snowfall is highly impactful for those in its path. Let us zoom in and discuss that for a moment, because it is quite impressive. We have been monitoring this for several days now, and we can clearly see there are very heavy bands of lake effect snow. I would say the most intense band right now is the one affecting the upper peninsula of Michigan and extending into the northern tip of the lower peninsula of Michigan. We are also seeing a few heavier areas in Indiana and lower Michigan. Additionally, there are bands coming off of Lake Erie and moving into parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York. And then we also have some heavier activity up near the Adirondacks and Watertown, New York. I have a very good friend of mine named William, who is in the Army. He is a helicopter pilot and lives up in Watertown, so I certainly hear all about the weather they experience there. He was my very first friend, and he remains my greatest friend, for whom I am deeply appreciative. He lives up there, and I suppose I am feeling particularly thankful for him today. It seems I am feeling especially grateful today, which prompted me to share that. My best wishes to William. He is a wonderful person, and we still talk to this day. Now let us move on and take a look at the computer model guidance. We have reviewed the current conditions, and now we will examine what is expected to happen later today and through the entire upcoming weather pattern. We will begin with our European model. I should mention that I am recording this video a little earlier than usual today, as I have family plans for the rest of the day. Therefore, this is the overnight forecast model run. There will be more updated guidance coming out later today. The next full update from the European model will be available in about 2 hours from the time I am recording this. You will be viewing this video a little while after that, as I generally post them later in the afternoon and evening. I do that because that time seems to work best for most of our viewers, when everyone is available to watch. In any case, we will be posting a great deal of model guidance within our online weather community. If you do join our group, you will receive the very latest model guidance. If I am not posting it, there are countless people in there sharing every single update to every single model run. The participation in our community is just tremendous. We are now well over 600 members, and so many of you are incredibly active. So please feel free to join that discussion. Looking at the model guidance, we can see the lake effect snowfall is expected to continue throughout the day. It is no surprise as that cold air is still moving into the region. I will note, however, that this particular forecast is for 7 p.m. Eastern Time, which is, of course, quite a bit earlier for those on the West Coast. And we can see that the storm system out west is expected to intensify as the day progresses. So even though this morning at 11:51 Eastern Time right now, it did not look too severe in the Northwest, conditions are expected to worsen out there. And again, the other major story is the continuing lake effect snowfall. This means areas that have already seen heavy accumulation will unfortunately see even more. It is quite a Thanksgiving, And I know that last year, many of you also dealt with lake effect snowfall on the holiday.
So this makes it year 2 in a row. For tomorrow, on Black Friday, the 28th, we see much of this snowfall shifting into the northern Rockies and northern plains. The lake effect snowfall will be diminishing somewhat, though it will still be ongoing. A lot of this activity is also spreading farther eastward into the northeast, which may result in some passing snow showers. Naturally, the farther and farther you get from the Great Lakes, the less likely it is to be a heavy, consistent band of snowfall. But some snowflakes will certainly be flying in the northeast corner of our nation for the day tomorrow, and it will be plenty cold enough for them. By Saturday, the 29th, we can see that next snowstorm we have been talking about beginning to develop. It will affect the northern plains, Midwest, and Great Lakes, and perhaps even some of the Ohio Valley, starting by Saturday afternoon. As we move forward into the evening hours, around 10 p.m. Eastern Time, you can see the low pressure center is located over parts of the Midwest.
We are forecasting heavy snowfall in Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and even extending into Ohio. This is projected to be a large-scale system that is also quite widespread, covering a large region. I believe there is a very good chance this will be a significant and impactful storm for the Midwest and Great Lakes. We have been discussing this area, and more specifically this particular region, as being prone to heavy snowstorms for several weeks now.
This has been the area that I have identified as the one that will really see a great deal of winter weather in the upcoming pattern. We see that forecast coming to fruition with this approaching snow system. By the morning of Sunday, the 30th, we can see that this system is no longer the strongest low-pressure center. It is actually quite difficult to pinpoint where the lowest pressure is, perhaps somewhere up here. It is not an exceptionally strong system by this point, but the intensity of the low does not always determine the severity of its impacts.
The two do not always directly correlate. Sometimes you can see significant impacts from a very weak low-pressure system, and other times a strong low brings fewer problems than expected, so there can be some variance. There will still be a great deal of snowfall for the Great Lakes and a large part of Canada. We are also starting to see some of this snow reach the mid-Atlantic and Northeast, especially in the interior sections.
It is even likely that we will see thunderstorm activity across the deep south along the cold front that is stretching down from that very weak low-pressure system.
As we continue toward the overnight hours, this is 10 p.m. Eastern Time on Sunday, we see that the low moves eastward. What remains is mostly snowfall in the higher elevations of the northeast. Some new lake effect snowfall will also start to develop after this system moves through, because that cold wind will once again be moving directly over the lakes.
So those lakes will begin producing snow once more.
I can only imagine what it is like to receive all of this lake effect snow, then have a major snowstorm on the way, followed by even more lake effect snow after it passes. I am truly curious to see what the final snowfall totals will be for you folks by the time we reach the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of December, because it is going to be an incredible amount. We do see that as time goes on, as we head toward Tuesday morning on the 2nd,
this next system is already beginning to organize. It is obviously a very active period of weather. The southern jet stream is feeding moisture into this entire setup. The northern jet stream is bringing some moisture, but it is primarily supplying very rich, cold air. And all of these elements are coming together. So we can expect to see a series of storms, including likely thunderstorms again for the deep south, as that has become a recurring trend. We will also see some light snowfall for the Midwest and Ohio Valley.
But watch how this system progresses as we move forward.
This storm just continues to strengthen, with a low-pressure center developing off the South Carolina coast by Tuesday afternoon on the 2nd. Then, as that low moves offshore, it begins to rapidly intensify, dropping down to a 995 millibar pressure. This will lead to snowfall getting started in the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast. This is for Wednesday at 1 a.m. on the 3rd, and the pressure then drops to 993.
The storm is in a nearly perfect location, well to the southeast of Cape Cod, Nantucket, and Martha's Vineyard.
This setup could result in heavy snowfall for much of Ohio and West Virginia, although it will be winding down for them. In the hours preceding this, Pennsylvania could see heavy snowfall across nearly the entire state, as could New York State and much of New England. This has the potential to be a very significant storm for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, but there are still 5 or 6 days to go.
So there is certainly time for this forecast to change quite a bit, and it is important to keep that in mind. We are still working to pin down the exact track of this storm. In the most recent trends, we have seen the computer models progressively pushing this system a little farther to the northwest compared to what we saw in yesterday's video. So the question becomes, will it continue to shift farther northwest, or will it stay where it is currently projected? Or is it possible it could shift back a little farther to the southeast? We have to work out the fine-tuning of all these details because it could make a tremendous difference for many areas. This is not a guaranteed event for anyone, so I do not want anyone's hopes to get too high just yet. However, this is a very promising sign for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. As the days go by, our confidence in the forecast will increase, depending on what we see from the models. That storm eventually moves away later on the 3rd. After that, we are left with some clipper systems moving through, as you can see there. These will affect the northern plains, Midwest, and Great Lakes. We see another more potent clipper system attempting to move through. Then we may finally see a bit of a warm-up. By the time we are reaching about day 11 in the forecast, which I believe is Monday, the 8th, we might even be at day 12 or so, which is in the long range, so we must take it with a grain of salt. But this particular model shows us finally moving out of the Arctic pattern and into something a bit more moderate, with some influence from a ridge in the southeast. We will have to see if that forecast holds true or not. But regardless, today is the 27th. We have 3 more days of November, not counting today, and this would be 8 days into December. So this is very far out in the forecast. If we do see cold conditions from now until the 7th, that will be a very long stretch of cold and snowy weather that we find ourselves in. We do see another coastal low pressure system right here. This is another signal. Again, this is far out, but we see another similar coastal system developing. The main difference is there is not as much cold air in place. So we end up with mostly all rainfall from this particular storm on this model run. But that is a clear signal for a storm, and if the temperature forecast were to change, that could look quite a bit different. Then toward the end of the period, which again, please take with a grain of salt, there is still a tremendous amount of snowfall for the western mountain ranges. Also, for the north-central states, we see another snow system getting organized. It looks like we are pulling another cold front eastward, which might be a sign that we will cool back down in the east with another Arctic blast. The GFS model is going to agree on multiple points. Of course, the lake effect snowfall is happening. We then see this major Midwest, Great Lakes, and Ohio Valley storm that moves through. And then we do get this more southern storm developing. As of the early morning model run, which is the one we are using today, and again, I am making this video much earlier in the day than I typically do. As of that overnight model run, we do see this low tracking much closer to the coast. This would lead to more rainfall for eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, southern New England, and even southern New York, creating some mixing issues where the heaviest snowfall would otherwise be. The heaviest snow would be more confined to the interior of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, as you can see. Now, before we move on with this model run, I want to show you the newest information I have as some of the midday model run has become available. It is not completely finished yet. I only have it out to about 200 hours, but I can see this storm on the more updated guidance. And what we see here is that it is a little bit farther to the southeast, which would bring a lot more of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and southern New York and southern New England into the snowfall as opposed to that mixed precipitation solution. So again, I will go back and forth here for you. This is the earlier run, and this is the newer run. You can tell that it obviously shifted a little bit to the southeast, so there is a good possibility that this forecast will continue to trend back and forth. It is certainly not over for southern New England or eastern Pennsylvania or New Jersey. These are rather typical model fluctuations that we see at 5 and 6 days out. We just have to work through it and ride out this forecast roller coaster. And we attempt to identify a trend in the model guidance to determine what is most likely to occur. So, we are returning to the 6 o'clock Z-time run. Let's continue with it. That system eventually moves out and we will examine the total snowfall later on. The interesting aspect of this 6 o'clock Z-time run is that we see another instance here around Friday the 5th. This is still within 10 days,
where the northern jet is dipping down and the southern jet is infusing moisture again over the deeper south. You may recall that the European model did not show this quite as prominently.
However, we do observe another snow system developing for the lower Midwest, the lower Ohio Valley, and even Kentucky. This then moves into a large portion of the Mid-Atlantic, including Virginia, West Virginia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and Washington, D.C., before heading up into the Northeast as another coastal system. So this model suggests that we may need to watch for not just one, but perhaps two or more systems along the East Coast. Because right here, there is not a lot of cold air. This is similar to the European model, where we see another coastal system, but there is not enough cold air to produce much in the way of snowfall.
And I believe the European model indicated something very, very similar.
And, much like the European model for now, we actually end up with a warmer pattern for a few days after the 10th. This might be a developing trend, or perhaps it is simply too far out in the forecast models, causing them to revert back. It is hard to say for certain, but that is what both of them show. It is important for us to point out any consistencies that we find. Here is the total precipitation. We can see a great deal more in the west than before, and possibly more in the east as well.
So let's just look at the anomalies or the differences from normal.
And yes, a lot more green is appearing around the nation here than yesterday. Still, some of California is projected to be quite dry compared to normal, even significantly dry, with several inches below average over the next 15 days. But the majority of the country here is either very slightly below average or quite well above average, as you can see. So, we are seeing a bit more precipitation for the United States as a whole in today's model run. As for the total snowfall on our European model, what we are seeing is a great deal of snow for the mountainous west, a significant amount for the plains and the northern Midwest. We see that essentially everywhere from the northern plains, the upper Midwest, and the Great Lakes could receive multiple feet. And then even the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast could see a plowable snowfall event as that system moves through. Many of these areas can expect multiple inches of snowfall. The GFS model tracks this a little farther to the southeast. Remember, there are 2 snowfall events in the east on this model run, but it would certainly result in quite a bit of accumulation here. Something I would like to do now is go back to isolate that first snow system.
So let's just focus on this one right here. This is your,
I will even do you all a favor and zoom in to the east so we can get a better look. But this is the forecast through Wednesday, the 3rd, on this particular model. So this is the single snowstorm, and we can see the heaviest totals are inland with this one, affecting northern New England, more of upstate New York, and more of northwestern and central Pennsylvania, as opposed to the eastern parts of the state. Consequently, southern New England and the east coast of the Mid-Atlantic do not appear to receive quite as much. But let's switch it back to the 12 o'clock Z-time model run, and we can see much more of, again, eastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and southern New England receiving those heaviest totals, even including New York City. So, we are going to see this shift back and forth.
It is still too early for me to tell you with certainty what will happen and what will not.
We are still beyond that reliable forecast range. However, there is model guidance suggesting that yes, the coast could see some snowfall. There is also some model guidance saying that it will remain inland. It is going to be a back and forth discussion, as it always is at this range. Again, feel free to join our online community where we will be posting every model run.
There is going to be a great deal of information to review with this one,
and it has become everyone's favorite topic of discussion lately. Many folks are staying up late discussing it. So, if you would like to talk about it, there are plenty of people doing so in our community. Looking at the temperatures, I will say again, we are cooler for the time being. We are looking at cooler temperatures for early December. The models have been trending warmer as we get closer to the 10th. This could just be a minor fluctuation that will go away, or it could be a genuine trend.
It could be a solid trend that is actually going to be the case. We are going to have to watch it closely, but we are looking at very cold conditions here for the next few days. And into the weekend, we will get a second Arctic blast. Then there is even a third one here for the first few days of December. It is right around the 8th that we start to see that southeast ridge come into play, and it lasts through the 9th and 10th. We get a little cool down, and then we warm back up again right here for the 11th and 12th. But clearly, A massive Arctic outbreak is projected right at the very end of this model run's forecast period.
Which again is another detail that far out at hour 360 should be taken with a significant grain of salt. But the bigger picture here is that we remain really cold up until about the 7th or 8th of the month. Then we start to see warmer air moving in, but it does not appear to be permanent. And these models do trend toward more Arctic air coming in after it. So it should be a temporary warm-up if the models are correct about it. Now looking at the GFS model here, we are going to see some pretty good agreement. Cool down number 1, cool down number 2, and cool down number 3 is a little bit more significant than on the European model.
We even see a fourth cold front here as we reach the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And then we do warm up on this model as well with a little less of an indication of Arctic air on the way after it. So that is certainly worth noting. The one thing I will say is that for the 27th, well, let's look at what is going to be more critical. Let me bring up the end of these ensemble runs.
Let me get this one towards the end as well.
And what we see is that even for the period from the 2nd through the 12th of December, so half of this time frame is going to be for the 8th through the 12th, we still see warmer air along the west. This indicates a positive Pacific North American pattern. And we still see Arctic air on the ensemble models. Now, the ensemble models are 20 to 30 different versions of the model put together, taking the mean average. So you get more opinions, which for the long range is wonderful. Typically, the ensemble models perform very well in the day 5 through 15 time frame, which is exactly what we are looking at right here.
This is in comparison to what we would call the operational models, which are the main GFS and European models. This is the ensemble model. We do see some slight signs of the southeast ridge, but nothing particularly strong. It is mostly just cold air continuing for the period of the 2nd through the 12th. And this is the European ensemble model. Here is the GFS, which is the GFS ensemble model, showing the same thing. There is really good agreement here. We have warmer air along the west, with Arctic air still moving into the east, and that southeast ridge is still a little bit present for the very, very deep southeast. What this tells me is that until we see the ensemble models change their minds about the cold air in the long range, I am not ready to fully accept a significant warming trend. Of course, it is nothing to be alarmed about either way, but I am not really buying into the warmer pattern around the 8th, 10th, and 12th until I see some strong ensemble guidance suggesting it. So I would encourage you to do the same. With all of that being said, again, a very happy Thanksgiving to all of you. I am truly thankful for all of you. And that is, I am so thankful today. I feel like I'm in a wonderful mood, and it is mostly because of you folks. I love making these videos for you. I have been able to do it for so many years, and hopefully I will be able to continue doing it for so much longer because I enjoy it so much. I hope you all have a great day. I hope you all enjoy some wonderful food, and I will see you all again tomorrow.